Hey there, I'm Genny Perez. I'm a wife, mom, and small business owner. And although I love being all of those things, I'm at the point where I feel like there's something more to life outside of those roles. Does that sound like you? If you're in search of that extra magic, craving a dose of positivity, purpose, and real talk on being worthy, capable, and able, you're in the right place. Let's kick off this journey together, ignite that spark, radiate some positivity, and discover what makes your life and business truly shine. Ready to jump in? Let's spark some radiance together. Hello and welcome to season 2 of the Sparking Radiance podcast. I'm Genny Perez. Let me just say that I have missed you all so much, and we have a lot of catching up to do. So when season 1 ended last year, I had to kind of put a pause on my passion project of Sparking Radiance because it was at the time a season in my life where I had a lot of demands and I didn't want to just throw out anything to throw out anything. I really, with this passion project, I wanted to be able to produce something that would be beneficial to not only myself, but be true to you all listening as well. So I had decided at that time that I would take a month or 2 off during that season, and I would begin at the beginning of the year. That was my intention, and that was my goal, and that's what I had written out. Now, if you know anything about me, once I commit to something, I fully commit. And ironically, episode 15, I didn't know at the time. In reflecting back on that episode, the episode's actually titled Don't Quit Now. And I think what I was doing in that episode is I was talking to myself and telling myself that you can't quit on this passion project. And I knew I wasn't going to. I knew that I would return, but when I did return, I wanted to come in wholeheartedly and I wanted to be able to continue to impact those that listen. And I will say that in reflecting and recapping season 1, wow, how much did we grow together? For me, putting this passion project together, I learned so much about myself and I've learned so much about you all as well, especially those of you that have sent me messages. Keep them coming. So my goal at the end of the year was to take a break and to restart in this upcoming year. That was my goal. And I had every intention to do that. And I knew that at that time when the new year would come about again, I would have less of a demand on me and I would be able to continue. But I actually did start. So I recorded season 2, episode 1. I had recorded the episode and I never launched it. And the reason why is because in early February is actually when we had a loss in my family. And I want to be open about this and I want to share this, what my experience has been throughout this time, because I think and I feel, or something is telling me that there are a lot of you out there as well that have experienced loss. Okay, so let me just share with you all what happened. We had a beautiful beagle by the name of Lexie. And for those of you that know me personally, you know that she was our baby. And Lexie was one day randomly breathing funny. Like she just had this breathe, like she was struggling to breathe. And at that time, I had already recorded episode 1. I was on my way to the previous night before she was breathing heavily, actually told my husband that I know what my topic is for episode 2, and I plan to record that weekend. So the next day she was breathing heavily and we had to take her in. With anyone having a pet, you know that sometimes their ailments, are just, the way I see it is they are just, I see the dollar signs, right? Because anytime you take your dog to the vet, it's gonna cost a pretty penny. And I was just like, let's just see, maybe she just had something stuck, and I kind of gave my husband a little pushback on her not breathing correctly. And I thought, oh, maybe she just needs, something minor. But then I actually saw her, she was trying to breathe so hard that she actually wasn't able to even keep her legs up. And then I said, that's it, we need to take her. That's when I realized that this is something bigger. And so my husband and I were able to take her. And at that visit, when we visited, we found like an urgent care for dogs because her doctor at the time didn't have any availability because it was a Saturday. But we took her in thinking that they came in and they told us, well, we have to do an x-ray. We have to see what's going on. We don't know, obviously, we have to see what's going on inside because the x-ray will be able to show us. And so we just assumed, oh, she ate something wrong. She has something stuck. Like, okay, Lexie. I mean, because she was herself. She was just struggling to breathe. So we were waiting in the room with her, and then the doctor comes back in takes her away for the x-ray, comes back in, with the x-ray results, and basically tells us that she has a large mass that has attached to her heart that is growing into her lungs, which is causing her to breathe heavily. And actually, now that I talk about it, they weren't able to see at that time what was causing her they weren't able to see what was blocking it, but they suspected that it was some sort of tumor or mass. And because at the time she had a lot of fluid in her lungs, and that's what was causing her not to breathe correctly, was because she had so much fluid. And so they gave us the option of putting her to sleep or draining her. And my husband and I were in shock, like full on shock. Like we thought we were just going to go take her. They were going to take out whatever she had eaten or done to herself. And we thought we were going to take her home and move on with the rest of our weekend. But in that moment, we stopped. It's like the world froze. Like, what? It was like, what are you saying? Like, and when I describe it, it was just like, huh? Like, and it's kind of like the rest of the world goes silent when you hear some news like that. Like, what do you mean? And what the doctor said was they suspected that it was some sort of tumor or cancer. They couldn't even really see it through the x-ray because there was so much fluid in there, and that, there really wasn't anything that they can do. And at her age, they would have recommended her to possibly a cancer specialist or somebody that could possibly remove it. But where it was, I mean, the likelihood of somebody even wanting to go and do that was impossible. And so they gave us some hope in the sense that they said, well, let's drain her fluid. Let's drain the fluid of her lungs, and we'll see how long it takes to fill back up. So sometimes, I guess in dogs, they can develop fluid in their lungs, and sometimes it can take weeks, sometimes up to months for the fluid to rebuild back in. So they said, let's take all the fluid out. And from what I can remember, it was literally liters of what they took out of her weight size. I mean, she was carrying so much water or liquid in her. Like when they told us the amount, we were just in shock. And they said, then we'll just wait and see. It could fill up quickly, or it could take months. This is just something that we can go in every few months and take the liquid out. They gave us some hope that she was going to be okay. And we were utterly in shock. I mean, to the point of my husband and I vulnerably crying together because she is our baby. And you would think, oh my gosh, she's just a dog, Genny. But to us, to give you a little bit of story about Lexie and our experience with Lexie, is that Lexie was actually, for a number of years, our baby. Genuinely our baby. My husband and I had been married for quite a few years, up to 5 years. We struggled to have children, and Lexie was our baby. She was actually a gift to me right before we were about to get married. And for a number of years, we came to the acceptance that we weren't going to be able to have children, and Lexie was our baby. And she just meant so much to not only me, to my husband, and maybe down the line we'll talk a little bit more about what the impact that she had on our family. I talk about her and I talk about this experience because I feel that there could be some of us going through the impact of loss. loss. So ultimately, to kind of catch you up of what transpired after the fluid was taken out of her lungs, we ended up only having 7 days with Lexie before on February 8th we had put her or send her to her final resting place. And it was, in retrospect, it was probably it was a beautiful, beautiful week. 7 days we had with her. Those 7 days that we had with her were amazing because in those 7 days, we forgot about everything else, but our love was there for her and she knew it. And I didn't anticipate to cry on this episode. I knew I was going to be sad because it's been quite a few months since this happened, but there's still a lot that I'm unpacking from that experience, but then in grasping that experience of loss. And in my case, my loss was losing her. And, maybe some of you all are experiencing a loss of a loved one as well. Maybe you're experiencing a divorce or a break. Maybe you're experiencing a loss of health or a job change or a loss of career. Some of us are in a position of maybe financial loss, or maybe we're just losing our home or our community or some kind of displacement, maybe a loss of a friend. There's so many, maybe loss of dreams, loss of future plans, maybe loss of you are struggling with infertility, maybe a failed venture from your business, or losing some sort of milestone that you had set for yourself. This idea of loss has been, over the last few months, has been genuinely weighing on my heart. And I felt that I had to share this experience because to be genuine to the Sparking Radiance passion project, I had to also come to terms what was happening on my end. And so directly after that night, when we finally said goodbye to, in such a beautiful way, such a beautiful way, we said goodbye to our baby, I had this pain in my heart, like a genuine pain. And I honestly thought I was having a heart attack because I had this pressure in my chest and I did not sleep the entire night. I literally laid there. And I am not one to not sleep. I have a skill. I could sleep anywhere at any time. But that night could not sleep. And I felt that I was having a heart attack and I was Googling like what's wrong with me. And in doing the research on loss, I actually found that when you experience a loss, especially a loss of a loved one, there is a condition that's called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, and it's also known as broken heart syndrome. And basically what broken heart syndrome is it's caused by a disruption in the blood being pumped to one section of the heart. And it mimics similar characteristics or effects of a heart attack, and it causes chest pain and shortness of breath, but it's temporary. In my case, it was thankfully temporary, but in that experience and in that, not only in that week, but also in the weeks to follow, I fell into a depression, in essence. I fell into a state of sadness and a state of disbelief, and I wasn't ready to return. And I do apologize for not being here, but I am happy to be back. And I want to dedicate this episode not only to her, but to you as well. If you are experiencing a loss, this episode is for you. And when we think about loss, everybody thinks that it's, like a linear process. And I think people think that it's a linear process because we're used to the stages of grief. There's the 5 stages of grief, which is the denial, which is the shock and disbelief and the difficulty of accepting what has happened. And these 5 stages of grief, it's by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. This has been around, I think, since the 60s, I believe. And this is kind of like the standard, what most go by. But the first is denial. The second is anger, the frustration and the resentment over the loss, and asking the why me, or maybe why me, or why now, if it's like a career loss, like, or why us, or questioning it. Bargaining, which is trying to make deals or find ways to reverse or lessen the loss. Depression, which is a deep sadness, a withdrawal, reflection on the impact of the loss. And then the 5th stage is the acceptance portion of coming to terms with the reality of the loss and trying to find a way forward. But of those 5, and I will tell you that I have and continue to experience all 5, what I can tell you is that there is no correct way to grieve a loss. And it's just not possible because it's not linear. And there's no correct way because grief and loss is specific to the individual, and it's so specific as to your fingertip. I can experience loss one way, and my neighbor or business acquaintance or my spouse or my child or anyone else, they may experience it different. Again, so loss is not linear. It's not like I'm going to go from the denial to the anger to the bargaining to the depression to the acceptance. You can go from denial to depression to anger. I mean, there's no set way as to which space it should go to. There's no like an A to B. And in that time, when I was taking the time to heal myself, I picked up a book called Resilient: Finding Strength and Embracing Life, Grieving After the Loss That Changes Everything. And it's by Lucy Hone, who had written this book because she had lost her daughter in an auto accident tragically. And when she writes about the loss, she says that loss is not linear. It's like you go from A and you have to work your way to Z. That's not necessarily the case. It's more like an exhausting, frustrating, and terrible game of snakes and ladders where you go back and forth and you go up and you go down. And again, going back to the uniqueness of loss. Again, every stage, you're not going to be in one stage or the other. There's going to be times one day you could be in depression and the next day you can be in total bargaining where you're trying to find ways to reverse that loss. So during this time, Lucy Hone gives some ways or gives some suggestions on how you can help your family, friends, or maybe colleagues during the initial time after the loss. So the first thing you want to do when somebody has lost is you want them to tell their story, and you want to be open to someone being able to release the emotions and the feelings that they feel. It's part of the process for them to release in any kind of I don't know if you've ever spoken to somebody that's had a tragic accident or an unfair diagnosis. Helping them through that loss is allowing them to share what occurred. And when you are listening, you are a patient listener, and you are encouraging them to talk about it, to talk about the loss, allowing them to be specific and to process. And for me, myself personally, I thank you for letting me share this story with you and letting, you listening to me share my experience as to what happened. And secondly, you would want to help the person or the family member adjust to life without the loss of their loved one or their situation, maybe their loss of their job. So for example, if my brother-in-law, directly after the loss of our Lexie, he volunteered to take Allie, our other baby, to him because he had dogs, and he understood that she would be grieving as well, not having her sister who she's had in her life, for as long as she did. She would also be a little bit shocked and stunned, but he took the responsibility of taking her because practically we were zombies, or at least I was a zombie. So it allowed us to take care of those practical things. So for some people, it's maybe making a decision for them that they couldn't make, like helping them, in some cases, helping them with a meal or helping them make a decision as to how things are going to be going forward. The third thing she says is you want to discourage the person that had just recently experienced the loss from making any major life-changing decisions too soon. And this is so powerful because when you are directly experiencing the loss, you don't want to make any major decisions because you're not thinking emotionally in the right capacity to make the right decision. The decision is based on pure emotion that you're trying to fulfill. So I'll give you the example of directly after Lexie was gone, my initial reactions, I could never get another dog. No one could ever replace her. And then they were evolving into, maybe I just need a puppy. Maybe I just need that energy. And in retrospect and looking back, I'm so glad I I wasn't allowed to make that decision because I'm not in a position right now, especially to have a puppy, but I wasn't in the right state of mind to make that decision for myself at the time. So don't allow who have experienced a recent loss to make any life-changing decisions too soon. And the same thing goes for all of the other losses in life. When you are recently leaving a relationship, you don't want to drive back into another relationship right directly after that, because that loss you have not had time to heal. The same thing with the business venture. You don't want to jump right back into another business when you haven't had time to process the loss and learn from the mistake of the why experience the loss, to learn or to take what you learned during that process. So very important, don't let them make any major life-changing decisions, because those decisions are not made. Those decisions are not made in the right state of mind. She also suggests that you help when someone is experiencing a loss, is you help them reminisce. Part of the healing process is allowing them to reminisce, allowing them to share stories, allowing them to feel that, especially when it's a loved one that has passed, allowing them to reconnect with those positive feelings that they had and memories that they had or around. And I think a lot of times when it's a lost loved one, the fear is that I don't want to lose the memory and the feelings that I felt when I was with or around this person. And I know for myself personally, I didn't want to miss my hearing certain sounds of hers. And I genuinely, the few days after, I realized how quiet I never realized how quiet my house was when she wasn't in there. And I would say sometimes at night to my husband, I was like, it's so quiet. It's so uncomfortably quiet because I didn't hear her barking. I didn't hear her chugging water. I didn't hear her scratching to come in and out, little things like that, or the click of her collar. But allowing people to reminisce of those to reminisce about those experiences or those moments with people is so beneficial, I think, because a lot of it is stemming from the fact that they don't want to lose the feeling, the memories being fading away, not only to themselves, but to those around them. And I think that a lot of times it comes down to what we are scared the most of is that their memories will fade, and that ultimately our loved ones or our loss or our accomplishments and whatever the loss may be will be forgotten. And so another example that she gives is that understand that when someone is experiencing a loss, that they have a lack of tolerance for life's little frustration or life's details. So I know for us, at least for me personally, directly after the loss, the world just stopped. Everything was like frozen and nothing had matter or meaning. Like I said before, I was laying in bed. There was nothing that would take away that feeling. Details did not matter to me. So be patient with those around you that are experiencing life with details. And be aware that it could be as detail as small as, did this person, can I provide them? Can I remind them that they should be eating? Can I remind them of a detail is important to them? So definitely being there for others that are experiencing losses, paying attention or understanding and having patience with the fact that the normal everyday details of life sometimes become frozen. She also mentions, as part of being supportive of somebody that has experienced loss, is to give them time to grieve. Like I said earlier, is that there's no defined limit as to how long you should be grieving for your circumstance. Every loss and every grief is at the definition of the person, just like their fingerprint. So just keep reminding yourself that it is going to take time, so be patient with that. And ultimately, when somebody is grieving or has experienced a loss, do your very best just to be a good listener and to not try to compare your stories to theirs, because it's going to get washed in their emotion. And it's really a time going back to like them being able to release and to share, making sure that you're not trying to compare who has the greater loss or not. During that time, they don't see who, or they're not comparing, and they're not in a position to want to compare. It's a matter of just being patient and being an empathetic listener to a friend or to a family member. Thank you for allowing me to share my experience with having lost my Lexie. And if I'm speaking to you directly and you have recently experienced a loss in some way, I want to give you a little bit of hope. And I want to share with you a quick story of some peace that I found directly after the fact. So after we had left the doctor's office, I had been crying in the doctor's office. Tears fell from my face and I was crying. But when we left the doctor's office, it was actually kind of late. We were their last client, and we were walking out the door, and they let us out and they locked the door. My crying went into a weeping, an uncontrolled weeping and I think in retrospect, I was in shock. And I think when we left, my brain finally caught up to the fact that what we had just experienced. And if you've ever been in a situation where you've had to make a decision for your pet and go through that experience, I will just say that it is hard. To this point has been one of the hardest things that I've had to go through, to see someone you love go right before your eyes. And I know some of you have experienced that or experienced this with family members. And I think of you with these words as I say this. It is one of the, if not the most hardest losses to experience and traumatic events to experience in life. But I think what happened was, after we left the office, when those thoughts finally caught up, or my brain finally registered what was happening, and I began to weep as we walked to the car, a full weep, to where my husband had to put his arm around me because I felt like I was going to fall to the floor. And I remember on our way to the doctor's office to take her, I sat in the back seat with her and I just sang to her, and 3 beautiful songs came on. Probably three of the most beautiful songs came on. And the 2 that I remember clearly, actually I think it might have been 2 songs, but it was a song by Bryan Adams, Please Forgive Me, I Don't Know What I Do, I Can't Stop Loving You. And I just remember singing it to her and petting her. And then the song I Can Only Imagine came on as well, and I couldn't believe it, and I was just singing it to her. And so on the way to the doctor's office, I sat in the back seat with her. And when I walked out with her favorite toy, because we took her with her favorite. Actually, no, her toy was sitting in the back seat there. And my husband, when we walked up to the car, I was like, I want to sit in the back seat. I don't want to be in the front seat, because I wanted to be where I last was with her. And so I sat in the back seat. And as he put me in, weeping, genuinely like an ugly cry, and he put me in the back seat, he opened the door for me and he let me in. And I sat there as he walked around the car to go into the driver's side of the car. And I heard this voice, and it was such a calming voice, and it was so clear. And I have to share this with you because I have to give you hope in the belief. And as I'm going through this loss, as I think about this, the belief of a God, of a Jesus, of a higher power, whatever it is that you believe. But that voice spoke to me, and that voice said, don't worry, I'm already petting her. And that voice gave me so much comfort. Any of you who knew Lexie, who has ever been in her orbit or around her, she loved to be petted. And she would make you pet her, even if you didn't want to. If you came to my house, that was a condition of coming to my house, is that you had to pet Lexie. So hearing that voice saying, don't worry, I'm already petting her, it gave me so much comfort to know that she could be where she was, and what I believe where she was, in the arms of God and being petted by the one and only. So I give you that to give you hope that peace is possible, that healing is possible. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It hasn't been easy the last few months, as you can hear in my voice and obviously me sharing this story. But thank you for allowing me to be able to share this with you. And to end this episode, to end season 2, episode 1, I just want to share some of the things that Lexie taught me. Lexie taught me unconditional love. And what I can appreciate about dogs is that they don't keep score. And as many times as I yelled at my Lexie, she always showed nothing but love for me. And she always wanted to be with her mama. and she couldn't ever be mad at me. Even many times as I yelled at her, there was a period of time where I crated her, which she couldn't stand when the girls were first born, always giving me love, unconditional love. There was no conditions attached to her love. She also taught me the meaning of loyalty and trust, and always being faithful, always being around, always caring about what was happening in the family. If you knew her, she had to know what was going on at all times. She reminded me, with a lesson that I can learn from her, is, just enjoying the simple things in life. And if you knew Lexie, she loved food. There wasn't a scrap that would get by her. If you were eating, if you were in the kitchen, if you were cooking, if you were just opening the refrigerator, she was there. She found joy in a meal. She found joy in the simple things of taking a nap, laying across the living room. Little things brought her happiness. Just sitting next to us, the simple act of just sitting next to anyone in our family brought so much joy to her. And the lesson that she taught me was that simple joys do matter. Lexie taught me to love without words. Her love and her presence and just the simple act of just rubbing her ears and her being next to us, her body language was beyond words. Lexie taught me to live in the moment. The thing about dogs is that they're so resilient that they don't worry about yesterday or they don't worry about tomorrow. They're very impulsive and in the moment animals, and they want to find the joy in the now. And Lexie, just by being next to me, she found so much joy. Lexie also taught me that dogs can sense grief and dogs can sense loss. But when we're sad, it's important for us to stay close, because sometimes healing isn't about words. It's actually just about presence. And when we went through our infertility struggle, Lexie was there. When we experienced some hard setbacks with lots of family members, Lexie was there to give us comfort. So dogs remind us that sometimes when we are experiencing sadness, there's no words that we need to have. We just need to have presence. There are so many things that she taught me about myself. She was great practice for me as a mother for all those years. I think we had her at least 6 years before we had our first child. But this episode, this season, it's dedicated to her because of all that she taught me, all the love that she gave. And even though I miss her so much and I cry for her and I get upset that she's not here, I'm so, so happy. I'm so happy and lucky that I was able to have her in my life. So thanks again for listening. And if you are experiencing loss, please make sure to follow those techniques that I mentioned. Let it out. Don't make any major decisions. Or if you know anybody around you that's experiencing some sort of loss, be just like Lexie. Be that person that they can turn to, just to listen or just to be present with. But season 2, dedicated to my Lexie. I love you. I miss you. I can't wait to pet you again. And you will always be Mama's baby. With that said, thank you for listening. Until the next time, keep sparking that radiance.
You hear that clap? That's me cheering you on for completing another episode. I don't know about you, but man, that was quick. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button or share the episode with someone you think that might need a little spark. And help us grow by leaving a review. Remember, keep sparking that radiance from within. Until next time, shine on!